Well, the number of virus cases in Russia has been soaring this month. Russia reported far fewer infections than many Western European countries in the early stages. But on Sunday, the Russian Crisis Response Center reported a record rise of 6,060 new cases from a day earlier. That brings its nationwide total to nearly 43,000.
Mikhail Yeryomin has been very busy since the coronavirus pandemic hit. The 23-year-old student is in charge of public relations at the Church of St. Tatiana in Moscow. Since early April, he's been streaming the services here online after the Russian Orthodox Church called on people to start praying at home.
They called me from the church and said, "We have to go online." And the first thing I thought was, I don't know anything about how to do this.
But now the live streams have become crucial. This Palm Sunday was the last Easter service worshippers in Moscow could attend in person. Even though far fewer people were going to church than usual, Moscow authorities decided Easter services were too risky during the pandemic and issued an order to the church to close their doors to worshippers. To Father Vladimir and his congregation, having to let go of Easter traditions is a heavy burden to bear.
I am mourning the fact that people have been driven out of the church. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, they've been driven away.
A few days later, and these empty spaces have become the new normal for churches in Moscow.
This church may have to stay empty for a while now, but right now hundreds of people are watching this service live on YouTube.
Mikhail Yeryomin thinks that people will come back to church after quarantine measures in Moscow end, but he also believes in his live streams.
Many churches have started streaming, and that means they're also telling more people about Orthodox Christianity. Of course, the ideal scenario is that people will come to our church later, after watching our live streams.
The authorities in Moscow say they may extend the measure after Easter Sunday. But in most other regions of Russia, churches will stay open to worshippers for Easter.
And Emily Sherwin is standing by for us in Moscow with the latest. Emily, hello to you. It's an alarming increase in the numbers of infections being seen in Russia. What is happening where you are?
It really is an alarming rise in cases. In the last 5 days, the cases have actually doubled here in Russia. On the one hand, that may just be because case numbers and numbers of infections are rising as the virus spreads through the country. But the official line here, and I think a very logical explanation as well, is that they have just stepped up testing in the past weeks very significantly. For example, there are more labs now, and apparently nearly 2 million tests have been carried out, with over 100,000 tests being carried out just in the last 24 hours. So really a huge number there of tests happening. And that now includes people who don't have symptoms, people who are likely to have been infected, like medical workers or people who have had contact with someone who's infected. And officials here in Moscow, where most of the cases, more than half of the cases have been found, have been saying that actually around 60% of people in the capital here could be carriers without having any symptoms. So that strategy of testing certainly makes sense.
All right, so authorities reacting with ramped up testing. But Emily, how are normal people responding to this situation? How worried are they? And do they trust the authorities are doing the right thing?
Well, I think people are worried here. People, on the other hand, have been told to stay home, rather strict measures that have been happening here for the past few weeks. Even before this huge number of cases, people have been told, especially in the capital, but also in most other regions across Russia, to stay home, just leave the house to go to the supermarket or to walk their dog within 100 meters of their homes. So really strict self-isolation measures. And of course, Russia isn't yet at the peak of infections. So that's pretty difficult for people here in Russia. And in Moscow, especially where there have been most of the cases, as I said, they've even introduced a system of electronic passes. So people who want to leave their houses and take public transportation or take car journeys have to sign up every time on a government website. That is a measure, of course, to stop infections spreading, but it is tough on people.
All right, DW's Emily Sherwin reporting for us from Moscow. We thank you very much.